Hey everyone, Jim Tedesco here for Millennium County Railroad version 2.5. Also, model car builder. Yeah, that's my latest deep dive into modeling. I haven't built a model car in, well, a damn long time. Probably close to 40 years. But I won this model from Cousin Vinny, and I said, I'm going to build me a car. And so far it looks pretty well. It's finished. It looks pretty good. I did a pretty nice job on it, I think. There's the rear end there. I tell you, I had a really tough time with the decals. Most of the decals on it, well, it covers most of the body. I need a new turntable. This one's a little stiff. There's the other side. There's a whole lot of decals on it, but then, it's a NASCAR, so you would expect as much. Bring it around. We got a nice interior. Somewhat detail while the roll cage and all that. And we got the other side and we've got the front. And I elected to put the hood up permanently. And I actually made some hood supports for it. You can see the black in there. Let me get my little pointer. The black hood supports in there. Now I took the stock 358 out, the Ford 358 cubic inch engine, and I've got a 429, the stock engine, single overhead cam. And I tell you what, it was a tight fit, but I got it in there. And I got the spark plug wires in. I think they might be a little too big in diameter. It's hard to tell. But these are roughly, that looks like they're about a millimeter in actual size, which I don't know what the scale size would be, but normally on something like that, you'd have an 8 millimeter size thickness wire in the real car. So is this close? Well, hard telling. But I got it in there, and that's the main thing. And then, of course, we also have the underside, which is highly detailed. Let me bring it back over here. You can see the engine. It's a tight fit. It's got a Tremac 5-speed transmission behind the 429. Looks like I got a piece of decal paper there stuck to the tire. But everything's all under there and good. I've got the exhaust in, headers, and then the stock exhaust pipes you would see on a NASCAR. So overall, I'm really impressed with how well it came out. Like I said, other than the tough time I had with the decals, I'd say it came out pretty damn good. So this is going to be the first in a series of models I intend to build over time. I did win. Well, actually, here's the backstory on this. I entered Vinny's contest. It was a 500 sub contest. He got his 500 subs. And I entered the contest and I won. The actual car that I won was this one right here. Put this back up where you can see it. And that's the 1966 Mustang. Well, I received the model a couple weeks later, and it wasn't the Mustang, it was the Citgo Thunderbird. Which is, I got stuff in this box, I can't really tip it up too well. But this is what came. So I'm going, okay, well, maybe Vinny made a mistake, I don't know. So I said, it doesn't matter. It's still a model. I want to build it. So he calls me up about a week after I got the model. He says, hey, did you get your prize? I go, yeah, but it's the wrong one, Vinny. He says, no, it's not. I said, yeah, it is. I was supposed to win the Mustang. He says, well, he said, you didn't sound too enthused about getting the Mustang. So I gave you this one instead. I said, oh, okay, but I really didn't want the Mustang. So, Vinny, being the great guy that he is, sent me the Mustang afterwards. He says, you go keep them both. He says, you know, and plus I'm doing some work for him as well. Uh, these cars, you know, they're getting really detailed on them. Like I said, they put spark plug wires on them now and distributors and heater hoses, radiator hoses, battery cables, starter wiring. I mean, they're really getting, I haven't done too much of that here. Really, the only thing I really did here was the spark plug wires. I did order a pre-made set of spark plug wires in the distributor for my next build, whatever that'll be. Well, it won't. I don't know if it'll be the Mustang or not, because we'll get into that in a minute. But he needed a carburetor. Now they make the 4-barrel Holley carburetors you could buy that are 1/24th or 1/25th scale. And this is 1/25th, by the way. I think, yeah, is it? Yeah. So he asked me, he says, you know how on a double pumper Holley, they have a dual inlet fuel line for it. And I said, yeah, I remember those when I was, you know, a young man. I used to, you know, I actually used Holleys on some of my cars. He says, can you make one of those? I said, yeah, I think I could do it. So a couple days later, I got to working on it. You know, I brought up a picture because it's been so long, I almost forgot what it looked like. Brought up a picture and then went on Tinkercad and actually designed one. Printed it out, came out good. But I'm thinking, damn, this thing is so tiny. You know, it's like Z-scale for you Z-scale train modelers. It's ridiculously tiny. And it was almost impossible to attach it onto a carburetor. So he sent me over one of the carburetors he uses, which happens to be a Holley. I think it's an 1100 series. It's, you know, the racing carburetor, 4-barrel, double pumper. And so I got it because I needed to match the lineup to anyway to make sure I got the size exactly right. So I got to thinking about it. So, well, shit, why don't I just make the line right onto the carburetor and print the whole thing up, since I can do that. So I did. And I sent him sent him a picture of it. He said, that's great. How many can you send me? I said, well, I'll send you 20 to begin with, and you know, so you'll have them for future models. He called me back a couple weeks later. He says, you know, look, he says, you're the only guy that makes these things. I said, well, that's cool. He said, no, you don't understand. He says, there are people climbing the walls for the fuel line because it's one of those details that they'd like to hook up because they actually make braided fuel line in scale to go into the carburetors, but nobody has a 2-in-1 for the double pumper Holley. So I says, all right, that's not a big deal. So I'm printing up, I think I gave him 40 of them so far. And he's going to sell them for me, and he'll get a little cut of the action, obviously. And we'll all be happy. And apparently right now I'm the only guy that makes these things. Imagine that, right? I should have put a copyright on it or a patent or something, right? But so basically in payment for me doing that for him and give it, because I didn't charge him for the carbs I made for him, you know. He said, just keep both models and we'll call it even. I said, you got it. So my next build is going to be the 66 Mustang. And I don't know when I'm going to start on it. I'm still trying to decide the color that I want to paint the body. I'm leaning toward a medium metallic blue. So I may wind up going with that anyway. I haven't really even considered interior colors yet. I did print a motor out. Where did I do it? It's here somewhere. I haven't painted this yet, and this was actually paid money for the file. And this is a 5-liter fuel-injected Ford motor. And this is basically the block assembly. Yeah, I got the oil pan on there already, and everything's on there except I've got a transmission for it as well. And it's the, hell, what do I do with it? There it is. This is also a Tree Mac 5-speed manual. It's kind of hard to focus in on that. Also a file I printed and purchased. Now I can't sell these because the guy I bought them from in Europe, he kind of has a copyright on them. I can print as many as I want for my own use, but I cannot sell them to anybody else. And technically I can't print them for anybody else either, which is fine. So if you're a modeler and you want these things, send me an email. I'll give you his email address or his page channel name, whatever, and you can look and see what he's got. He's got, I think he said 65 different Ford engines. He has engines for the Dodge Charger, everything from 440 to on down to 318. He's got straight 6-cylinders, the Chevy. I mean, this guy's got a shitload. He said altogether he's got 95 different engine and transmission options available. I mean, they're very realistic. There's a lot of parts in them, and actually what I did was I stitched a lot of this together, because this here is just a block, and this was for the 429. Now you got to put the heads on it, the oil pan, the timing cover, water pump, valve covers, all the stuff you got to put on it. So I said, well, it's easier if I build it or assemble it online using, actually I used the Lychee slicer, because this was too big of a project for Tinkercad. But I was able to stitch it together and then export it as an STL as one piece. And that solves a lot of problems for, having to build it, because there's a lot of tiny parts. However, I still have things like this little tiny air filter. That doesn't want to focus in too well. But I've got all these parts. I've got pulleys, I've got alternator, air conditioning compressor, water pump, whole 9 yards. There's roughly about, I think there's like 60 or 70 pieces to this motor. So I assembled what I could, and then I'll glue on the rest of it. And of course, it has to be painted up and what have you. But and I had to resize them too, because he sells them in 1/8 scale, and I needed to bring it down to 1/25 scale. So that works out like that. But I like doing it that way, and I plan on putting this 5-liter in the 66 Mustang. So it'll kind of be an updated, what they call them, a retrofit, or a retro, so I don't know, there's a name for it when you put newer stuff in an older car. So we'll be working on that in probably the next couple of months. It's not something I'm thinking about maybe doing maybe 4 cars a year. I don't want to get too crazy with it. I still love trains. Trains are still my first passion. But I also like building things. And like I said, I haven't done a plastic car model, I think, since I was like 22, somewhere around there. And I'm 65 now. So anyway, that's where we're at with this thing. And I hope y'all like it. I hope you give me lots of good likes and clicks. And if you're not a subscriber, please be one. Like I said, mostly I'll be doing train stuff. I am an HO scaler, but I'll also be doing stuff like this as well. So if you like my work, hit the like button and sub if you haven't already. And, well, we'll see you next time when I start the 66 Mustang. And what I'm going to do after that, I think I might do a 1965 Malibu SS, since it was a car that I actually once owned, a real one. And I may look for cars that I actually owned in the past. Now, obviously, I never owned a T-Bird, NASCAR especially, and I never even had a Mustang. Well, not an old one, anyway. I had a 2000, what was it, a 2000? Yeah, 2000 Mustang GT convertible. but it was on its way out when I bought it, so we got rid of it pretty quick when it started having problems. But anyway, I'd like to kind of just go a little, do a little time machine stuff there and go back to some of the cars I once owned. And I had many different cars in my youth, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, keep your eyes open for future videos regarding either model cars or my HO model trains, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.